everyone, welcome back to the THC Launchpad, where we're helping new founders get their cannabis business off the ground. I am Doc, I'm one of the founders of the Hook Collective, and today we're going to be talking about ROI, maybe the three most important letters when it comes to marketing. So obviously ROI stands for return on investment. Hopefully all of you know that. When it comes to ROI and marketing, the most important thing that I need to stress is you just have to be thinking about your ROI when it comes to your marketing, because most people are not. Most people are not keeping track of how much they're getting, how much return they're getting on the investment they're putting into all the different ways that they're marketing their business. Whether sometimes it is things that are hard to keep track of, like, oh, I've put a billboard up, near my store. How can you measure how effective that is? Or the money that they're putting into social media, for example. And yeah, you can track how many followers you're getting, how much reach you're getting, how much each post is being viewed. But how does that translate to the money you're actually making? It's really hard. Because it is not always easy to keep track of your ROI, it just leads to people just ignoring it. And so I'm going to give you some pointers, and there's a few things that I really want to talk about as it applies to marketing. First I want to just say, I'm not an MBA. I'm not a person that specializes in business development. I specialize in marketing, and specifically creating really stellar content and branding for your cannabis business. That means that I am not an expert in how to set up your business and structure in a way where you're able to keep track of your ROI as efficiently and effectively as you need to. What that means is the first thing you should be doing is making sure there's someone on your team or an outside consultant, preferably someone internal, because I never really trust consultants. But making sure there's someone on your team that is good at this and is going to keep track of, how we're performing and how it's translating into sales. The most obvious way that you can do that is when you're able to tie in your marketing efforts directly into your POS. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Let's say that you have a POS that allows you to do email. And so that means, okay, I'm going to send out this email. I'm going to be able to track how many people open it, how many people respond to it, how many people use the offer code associated with that email, or the coupon, or the user ID to make a sale or to come into the store. If you're able to track your users that way, you know every time I send out an email, how much return on that investment did I get? And that's a really good example of, okay, and in a recent video we talked about email marketing, but that's a really good example of, okay, creating emails, that's a pretty low investment endeavor. It doesn't take a lot of effort, it doesn't cost a lot of money, and I'm able to specifically track how effective those emails are, how many sales are being converted because of those emails. So that's the best case scenario. I'm sure you're already thinking of several things tied into the way you keep track of your business that, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And hopefully you're already doing those things, because those are the low-hanging fruit. But not everything is going to be so easily trackable. And so in that case, you need to, at the very least, be keeping track of before and after. Okay, I'm putting up a billboard. They say, oh, it's got this much reach, it's going to be viewed this many times. But there's no way of, one, knowing if they're telling the truth, and two, tracking how does that translate into sales. The only way that you can possibly track it is before and after. Okay, before I put up the billboard, this is my sales, and since I put up the billboard, this is my sales. Now, this only works if the only thing that has changed is I put up that billboard. I didn't do any other marketing endeavors, so I'm able to track only the effectiveness of the billboard because nothing else has changed. Well, of course, no matter what, some things are changed. before you put up the billboard, it was March, and after you put up the billboard, it was April. Oh, 420. So was the increase in your sales because it was, the billboard, or because it fell on 420 month? Well, you can hopefully track that because you can compare what was the difference between last March and last April. What was the growth then? Was the growth more? And so even just that one example, you can start to see, oh, it can be kind of complicated. And so that's where, that's what I meant earlier. I'm not an expert business person. I'm not I'm not, again, I'm not an MBA. I'm not an accountant. I'm not the person that is figuring, the math out on some of these things. And I'm sure most likely you are not either. But again, make sure someone on your team is keeping track of this stuff, because otherwise you're going to be spending money on marketing and you're going to have no idea if it's effective. And the one other thing I can say about this is, like, you want to be keeping track of, are you generating leads? When you're generating leads, how many of those leads convert to actual follow-up calls? How many of those follow-up convert into sales? So you want to be kind of documenting every step of that process. And if you're breaking it down like that already, then when you start to add different marketing endeavors, you can, like, oh, when we did this, we saw a spike here, but it didn't lead to a spike here. But when we did this, things are generate, and the more data you have, the better you're going to be able to track your ROI overall and for specific marketing things. That's all pretty general advice. You can get it elsewhere. I'm sure you could be watching videos that are giving you very specific advice on how to track ROI. But there was one concept of ROI that I did want to talk about that ties directly into marketing. And that is, I want you to think about, what are you paying for when you invest into marketing? And let me give you a few examples so you can see what I mean. For example, you put up that billboard, and where is that billboard? Is that billboard in your neighborhood? Maybe, or is it on the highway that is a mile away? Well, the billboard on the highway, that's going to get seen by a lot more people. Better, right? The more people that see it, the better. Well, maybe not. Because one, that billboard is going to be a lot more expensive than the billboard that's just in your neighborhood that's going to be seen by a lot fewer people. So you're paying less for that space, and perhaps, and again, this all depends on where you're located and what the billboard assets are in your area. But it may be that the billboard in your neighborhood is much more cost effective, because not only is it cheaper, but it's seen by people that are more likely to come into your shop. Now, the problem, one of the problems with billboards is that when you're paying for a billboard, it's going to be seen by all the people in the area that pass it by. Not just the people that might be your customers, not just by the cannabis users or the cannabis curious, not just by the people that are 21 or over, which is a whole nother problem. But you still have to pay for all the people that are going to see it. And so you are paying for a much bigger reach than what you actually need. Now, again, if you're in a smaller, more rural area, a neighborhood that's less trafficked, that billboard might be a lot more cost effective than you realize, especially compared to that highway billboard. But if you're in a more rural highway location versus in a city location, you're going to pay a lot less, and maybe the equation on how much it costs versus how many people you're getting into the store because of it makes a lot more sense in the rural area versus the urban area. Or maybe it's just the opposite. Every place is going to be different, but you can already see the way you need to be thinking about it is, okay, you're paying for the exposure, but does the exposure match your audience? Let me give you another example. let's talk about cannabis influencers. You want to hire a cannabis influencer to endorse your business, to talk about it on social media, to wear your t-shirt, to represent you at an event, whatever. And on the one hand, you could hire Snoop Dogg. I'm going to hire Snoop Dogg. Everyone knows who Snoop Dogg is. And so an endorsement by him is going to be seen by so many people, right? It's going to have huge reach. Or you could pick someone that's local to your area to be your celebrity endorser, to talk about you on social media. Well, again, it's like, oh, well, if I can afford it, I want to get Snoop Dogg because it's going to be seen by a lot more people. Well, the only problem is when you're hiring Snoop Dogg, he has a national, audience. And so you're paying for his national audience. And so, but you are operating in a single state, and you only really need to reach the people in that state. And so you can already see where I'm going with this. It makes a lot more sense, probably, to pay much less for a local endorser, a local celebrity, a local influencer, and who, that their reach is only going to be in your city, in your state, in your area. And so you're paying a lot less for a much more targeted audience that matches much better with your target audience. And so when you're thinking about any form of marketing, that's how, who is this marketing reaching, and how does that overlap with my potential audience? And you can already see digital marketing, where you can define your audience by very specific hashtags, category. When you can define your audience, it makes so much sense why you want to advertise on Google, on Meta, on any of the social media platforms, YouTube. When you can define who's going to see your ad and then only pay to be seen by those people, and you can match that up to your potential customers, great. Well, you may already know the problem with that. We're unable to do that as cannabis businesses. And so it's very rare that you see cannabis ads on Google, on Instagram, and sometimes you'll see it, and it doesn't last long because they get caught and they have to take it down. Or I've been seeing a lot of MJ BizCon ads, and they're definitely skirting the line with what they're getting away with, but they're in a kind of unique position that most of you are not going to be in. And so we're not able to have this highly segmented digital marketing because we're cannabis businesses, but we still have to apply that mindset to anything that we're doing. That's the only way you can create ROI, is matching up as well as you can, the audience reach that you're paying for to your target consumers. And the more closely they match, the better your ROI is going to be. Last thing I want to say is one area where you are able to track ROI pretty well is SEO. SEO is a low-cost investment that is the area that I've actually been pushing pretty hard recently, and it's not it's not because I want to. I'd much rather be doing photography, designing brands, doing the more creative artistic stuff than doing SEO. But what we're finding is that is getting the greatest return. And we know it because we have invested in our SEO, and that's how we get most of our clients. And so we know it works, and so that's why we're promoting it to our clients, and it's trackable. And especially if you're able to match your, Google Analytics data to what's going on in your POS, we're not able to do that part of it. We can design the SEO campaign, we can keep track of it for you, we can give you your reports, but we're not seeing your sales data. And so only you're going to be able to take that data and translate it. But there's a lot of data. When we do these SEO reports, it's like, whew, Compare it to our social media reports. It's like, it's like a Russian novel versus, a pamphlet that someone's handing out. And so there's so much data that you can pull from, and so it's up to you to apply it. But even if you aren't doing the whole 9 yards, even if it's just like, oh, I'm able to track, how many people are coming to my website? Is it going up? Is it going down? What are the search terms that are working? You're able to, even if you're not tying it directly into your sales data, it's still giving you a lot of information about how effective it is. And so this is the reason why we are pushing SEO, because not many people are investing in it. It's a kind of an open playing field. Unless you're in CBD, it's much tougher, but when you're in THC, not many people are doing it. And so it's an open runway that, you should be exploiting. But it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. You need to start having that mindset, ROI. How is this investment going to get repaid? And is it? The only area where there isn't the trackable data isn't there, but you have to make the investment, is brand. And I've had plenty of videos up about brand and why it's so important. But since you should be investing in your brand before you even get started, there's no real reason there's no real way to track how effective it is, except, just the common sense of the better your brand, the more success you're going to find, and the evidence all around you in every industry. Okay, I've already talked too long about ROI. I hope this has helped you to kind of wrap your head around what we mean when we say ROI and what you can be doing as you're developing your marketing plans. And so if you have any more questions about ROI, hit us up in the comments, reach out to me directly. It's really easy to find us on our website. I'm happy to have a conversation about it and how you guys can be more effective. I hope this has helped you, and if it has, please like and subscribe. And I really appreciate you watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.